You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Sarah Gulseth.
I'm Andy Bates.
We get to talk about, I don't know what number on our favorite list of things.
It's in the top 3.
It is the top 3. Yes.
Missionaries, music, and food.
Missionaries, music, and food. Yeah. Yeah, we get to talk about the music of Bach today.
All good gifts of God. Missionaries, music, and food.
They are.
And Bach is included in that.
Bach is definitely included in that. And this is one of my favorite music things to talk about because it's a concert that I get to perform in, which is super cool, and everyone should come.
Super cool.
It's super cool. That should convince everybody. Joining us in studio, Dr. Maurice Boyer, music director of the American Contrai, all the way from Chicago. Welcome.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks for being here with us today during our prep week before the concert. Gets a little busy with all of these rehearsals.
Right.
This first question I know is a big one, and we could probably talk for 10 hours about this, but why sing the music of Bach?
That is a very big question. Well, I think I'll just start from a personal level.
Yeah.
For me, the music is, it's some of the most insightful music there is out there, both at the theological level, I think, in terms of the understanding that Bach has of theology and how he translates that into music, but also at the human level. I think it's music that really it delves deeply, I think, into the human condition, and translates that also again out into sound in ways that register with people, with a broad variety of people from different walks of life. I think at least it has that potential. There's a universal quality to the music.
Yeah.
And it's also, that would be one thing. I mean, it's also for us Lutherans, or for anyone who is of that heritage. This is core repertoire. This is part of the identity. Also because it's not only because he was a Lutheran composer, but this was music that was designed for the liturgy. It had a very specific function within the liturgy. He also sets chorale melodies, which are a central part of the tradition. So those would be a couple of ways, or a few ways, in which I would find this music significant.
The upcoming presentation of Bach's cantatas 17, 47, and 95, which are taking place on March 17th, Sunday, March 17th, at St. Paul Lutheran Church in De Pere, is titled Christ Who Is My Life. Tell us more about this title.
Well, the title comes from one of the cantatas. Cantata 95 has that very title. I mean, in German, it's Christus, der ist mein Leben. I mean, you could translate another way. You could just simplify it and say Christ is my life. It could be either way. But so the title comes from that piece. So it's a Trinity cantata. Actually, all of these cantatas are for various Sundays after Trinity. There were no, of course, we're in Lent right now, but there was no concerted music, so no music with instruments during Lent in Leipzig. So we'd be hard pressed to find a Lenten cantata. So, but these cantatas have, at least to some degree, Lenten themes of repentance and sort of preparation, being along the way, following Christ, discipleship, all those sorts of themes that we associate with Lent.
It'd be a rough time to be like a musician who plays an instrument. You're like laid off for the season of Lent. Like,
That's a long time.
Yeah.
I was wondering why we weren't doing Lent ones. That just answered
That makes
my
sense,
question.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned something.
Let's talk more about these, the significance of these cantatas. You talked about 95, and you mentioned that there are no specific Lent cantatas because of the penitential season. Tell me more about how they fit together. You mentioned that some of the theme among them.
Right. Well, when I design these programs, there's an aspect of it that is really intuitive. I mean, there's also this desire to come up with an arc that, an expressive arc, and a theological, an idea arc that makes sense. Whether it's perceivable to everyone or not is less of a concern to me than that it makes sense to me. Hopefully, it translates outwards so people will grasp it as well. And I tried to say a few words about that in my program notes, as space allows. Anyway, in this case, it often will start with one piece that I really want to do. In this case, it started with 95. That's the cantata I really wanted to perform and do perform with this group of folks. And from there, it sort of went outward. So 95 is in the middle of the program, and from there, I wanted to find something that would have a bit more, be a little bit more of a dramatic piece. Not that 95 isn't dramatic, but something that would have a little bit more of a, I suppose, maybe a darker theme to it, or something that would have that would enable sort of a progression toward the light, if you might say. And so I came up with this with Cantata 47. Which in English would translate as "Who exalts himself will be humbled." And the next part of the title of the opening movement of the cantata is "Who humbles himself will be exalted." So you get these two things in apposition right there. And the whole opening movement's about that. So it's about humility and versus pride, and that as part of the trajectory of the Christian through life toward moving away from self indulgence, self concern, and all that sort of thing, pride. And then the other bookend of the program is Cantata 17, which is another Trinity cantata, as you might imagine. In English, it's "Who offers thanks praises me," and the gospel for that day would have been the story of the 10 lepers who were healed. Jesus tells them to go show themselves, and along the way to the priests, and then along the way they are healed. And of the 10, only one runs back, and he does. I mean, he comes back with enthusiasm and thanks Christ, and falls at his feet. So this whole cantata is about thankfulness, really. So again, there's that. So it's like an arc from crying out to Christ to praising and thanking. So.
Where are you hoping that the audience, ends up at the end of the concert?
Yeah, well, I think the final chorale of 17 is it's really a beautiful evocation of just the gentle love of God as Father, and truly it ends almost in a lullaby-like way. It's the chorale tune which is not typically in 3/4. Is cast in 3/4 time, and the gentleness of that, and that's the meter you associate with lullabies, whether it's 3/4 or some kind of triple meter. It has that gentle feel to it, and so just hopefully that people walk away having sensed, what that love might be like, just how gentle and simple it can be, as well as tremendous in another way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So on a personal note, the chorales are, I think, always my favorite part to sing out of all of this beautiful music. They tend to stick with you a little bit, and sometimes maybe because it's the tunes can be familiar, tunes out of our hymnal. Mm-hmm. But when you read through the text in English or German, if you know German, it's they tend to stick with you a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. I mean. I think the neat thing about these cantatas, and I think the special thing about them, is that they do end with these familiar cantatas. Some folks have suggested that these would have been sung by the congregation. I actually don't think that's probably true. However, what you can say is, given that they end with, at least a lot of them end with a straight 4-part chorale, the text would have been immediately intelligible to the congregants, and they would have felt maybe more personally engaged, as if at least inwardly they were singing along, if not outwardly. So I think it just brings things to a much more personal level at the end, and straightforward. Oftentimes, it's like that's the opening movement is vast almost always and enormous in idea, and it's as if it just kind of narrows its focus toward the end.
Yeah. And there's so many cantatas that we could sing, so many things that could go into these programs. What do you learn from going through that process of figuring out the arc of the program and shuffling through cantatas and piecing all this together? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
What did I learn? Well, I'm always amazed by the extraordinary variety that there is in this music. Yes, there is sort of an overall shape for these cantatas that he somewhat adheres to, chorus, recit, aria, chorale, in some way, shape, or form. But every single time he writes a cantata, it's different. Not every cantata starts with a chorus. Some start with a recitative or an aria, and only end with a chorale. Some of them have chorales interspersed in the middle, or like in 95. There are two chorales in the opening movement, interrupted by a recitative, a tenor recitative that breaks in and out of ariosos. So that there's the incredible variety of utterance is, and it's always at the service of the text and of the idea that he is trying to convey, something that he perceives in the text, and it's almost always unexpected. He'll very often sort of turn a text on its head. So a particular example of that would be, excuse me, in Cantata 17, unless I'm getting the cantata wrong. But it's the cantata is all about this one aria for bass is all about Jesus bowing the heart with his strong arm. So it's got very strong language, and you kind of would expect something that would have vigor and muscle to it. Instead, it's quite gentle. And you would expect perhaps something in the minor mode, with that would be on the jagged side. Instead, it's a very lyrical aria in the major mode with two violins, a very delicate texture, a quartet of instrument and voice, so two solo instruments, the bass voice and the continuo part. Again, completely unexpected. He adds tension in it by subtle means through chromaticism or extra or imitation that just suggests a little, as I said, a little more tension. But other than that, just the setting itself is free, generous. Again, just a little thing that what I take from that is that it enriches my understanding of, how God also works with us, in us. One thing.
We are just about out of time. I want to make sure we share the details so friends can join us.
Absolutely.
Yes, for the Contrai, the American Contrai concert coming up Sunday, March 17th.
Yes, 3:00. St. Paul Lutheran Church in De Pere on Manchester. And something that we want to make sure people know is that there is construction in the parking lot, so there will be a shuttle from the north parking lot and from the Edward Jones parking garage. So fear not. And it begins at 2:00 and it will end at 6:00. So there will be, do not fear if you have to park far away.
There will be a shuttle.
It's also free admission. So come everyone. Hear us sing. It'll be beautiful.
Dr. Maurice Boyer, thank you so much for being our guest on the Coffee Hour today.
Thanks so much, Andy and Sarah.
I'm Eddie Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.